I'm Patti Browne, and you are in the strategy room. Republican presidential candidate Ted Cruz is facing increased scrutiny over his stance on immigration. The Texas senator touts on the campaign trail that he was against the so-called Gang of Eight plan, which sought comprehensive immigration reform. But special report anchor Bret Baier last night questioned Cruz over his support for a 2013 amendment which would have allowed some undocumented workers to stay in the U.S. permanently. Let's listen.
You said if this amendment were to pass, the chances of this bill passing into law would increase dramatically. A few weeks later, during a debate on the Senate floor, Cruz repeated his belief that this amendment is the compromise that can pass. And you repeated later in Princeton that if my amendment were adopted, this bill would pass. It sounded like you wanted the bill to pass.
Of course I wanted the bill to pass, my amendment to pass. What my amendment did is take citizenship off the table, but it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that I supported the other aspects of the bill, which was a terrible bill.
All right, so here now with reaction are Ellen Ratner with Talk Media News and Thomas Basile, former executive director of the New York State Republican Party. Welcome to both of you.
Good to be here.
Thank you. So, Thomas, do you see that he's changing? Is he flip-flopping here?
Well, look, everybody's all over the map on this issue. Immigration is one of the big hot-button issues of the 2016 campaign. And look, Rubio has the opposite problem. He was in bed with the likes of Chuck Schumer on this comprehensive strategy. Now he's got a tack further to the right. And everybody's making the mistake. And the same mistake that everybody makes is that, look, the American people want some sort of pathway to legal status. Maybe not citizenship, but some sort of pathway to legal status. And if Cruz and Rubio and some of these other candidates really should be doing is trying to forge a contrast with the untenable position of Donald Trump, who is way out on the right flank on this issue.
Well, Ellen, that does seem to be what the candidates are doing now, but then they have quotes from 2 years ago that can come back and bite them. What do you make of this?
I make of this that, look, everything has to be seen through the lens of this coming election. Bret Baier has done an amazing job as a journalist. You know, had anybody else done it, I don't think they could have done it as well as he did it. He used what the candidate had said and asked the candidate about that. And I think that that is not only good journalism, but it shows that these guys are appealing to a base that they want to get them elected to be the candidate. But it's not necessarily going to work.
Go ahead.
No, and look, the poll numbers are very clear. Even a majority of Republicans understand that the idea of just deporting 12 million Americans is not feasible. It's not feasible economically. It's not feasible structurally within our government or legally. And so what Cruz was actually trying to do, if it wasn't a poison pill 2 years ago, was to try and be constructive in making the bill maybe a little bit tougher, but still taking a position that, frankly, a lot of Americans would be able to get their arms around. And now where we've seen during this primary process, we've seen this sort of the whole discussion shift too far to the right for it to really stand up to a general election campaign. And that's a big problem for Republicans going into next year.
Yeah, well, but Ellen, here's the problem, of course, you know, is that word amnesty, the idea that the law-abiding people who are waiting in line, Marco Rubio has said it a few times, that some of them wait 10 years, 15 years to get into this country, and they see their friends and neighbors sneaking in illegally, getting a lot of benefits here in the United States, and now this talk that, oh, they can get legal status, and here's my friends still waiting, trying to do the right thing. How do you bridge that gap where you're not condoning breaking the law? Because right now people see it as the easiest way, and it seems unfair to do the right thing.
It may be unfair, but I'm not running for president, and these guys are, so they have to come up with how they're going to bridge this law and deal with their base and yet get elected. And I honestly, it's a good thing I'm not running for president because I couldn't figure out how to do that. But what you say in the past is important.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. Cruz is rising in the polls. How do you think he's going to do ultimately?
Well, look, he's got a very good ground game, and that's really important. One of the things that Donald Trump and so many of these other candidates lack is a human infrastructure, a political infrastructure on the ground in these early states, and Cruz has spent a lot of time putting that together. So we've started to see him bubble up in the polls. This could damage him with some conservatives, particularly those who are teetering between, do I go for a Trump or do I go for Cruz? But overall, the Republicans have to figure out what their real message is, and a message that's going to resonate with the broader electorate once all of this mess is over and we're into a general election.
Yeah, well, we will see what happens. All right, Ellen Ratner, Thomas Basile, thank you so much for joining us. And you can check out foxnews.com for more on the 2016 presidential race. I'm Patti Browne. Thanks for watching.